On today's show, we'll look at what went wrong for the Ottawa Senators on Saturday night in Carolina and look forward to a critical 4-game homestand.
And we'll do our weekly Sens prospect roundup, including a feisty weekend from Carter Yakimchuk.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode's brought to you by Indeed. Still searching for a great candidate to work at your company? Don't search, just match with Indeed. Today is Monday, November 18th, and Pilsy, are you over Saturday's 4-0 shutout loss yet?
I think so, Ross. It's been enough time. Obviously, we did an hour-long postcast, so we really had our time to flush all our feelings out from it, but it's been enough time, and at least, Ross, looking ahead at the schedule, which we're going to do more in today's show, but it's nice knowing the Senators have a 4-game homestand with no Eastern opponents. So we're not going to be as stressed. I know you're a big scoreboard watcher, Ross. We're not going to be as stressed with how much this is going to affect the Ottawa Senators wild card position. It's all Western teams. So what happens does not affect the wild card race, at least when it goes to looking at your opponents and how they stack up versus the Sens.
The Ottawa Senators had a full day off yesterday. They were just back on the ice at practice this morning, and there's a similar trend. Unfortunately, it's a player that's not on the ice. He didn't skate Friday, didn't skate today, and that is Noah Gregor. Good timing, I guess, for David Perron to get back into the lineup, but no Noah Gregor on the ice at practice. Otherwise, the lines are unchanged from what we saw on Saturday in Carolina. Josh Norris centering Brady Tkachuk and Ridley Gregg. Tim Stützle between Claude Giroux and Drake Batherson. Shane Pinto with Michael Amadio and David Perron on his wings. And the fourth line, unchanged, Adam Gaudette, Nick Cousins, and Zach McEwen. On the back end, Jake Sanderson, Artem Zub, Thomas Chabot with Nick Jensen, Tyler Kleven with Travis Hamonic, and we expect Linus Ullmark to start tomorrow, but nothing has been decided. Of course, Anton Forsberg played that game in Carolina. Pilsy, is this something that you're okay with keeping status quo? I know up front there's no other option with Noah Gregor unavailable by all accounts. And on the back end, JBD now, he hasn't played in like 2.5 weeks.
Well, it seems like Noah Gregor was on the ice wearing a non-contact jersey. He didn't take part in the line rushes. So clearly he's not really close to getting back into the mix here. So yeah, like you said, up front, this is what I would expect. I don't think there's any reason to change any of the lineups up front. And on the back end, look, Chabot Jensen have been your steady pair this year. Sanderson and Zub still trying to figure it out, but at least trending in the right direction. And I know everyone sees JBD not in the lineup and the hashtag free JBD start going up on X, but I think Travis Hamonic hasn't been a guy that's been detrimental to this team's success. Like, if anything, Ross, I actually think the last couple of games have been one of his better stretches, and him and Kleven are actually looking like a decent third pair. Kleven especially has really rounded out his game in the last week or two and has looked like he's a perfectly competent NHL defenseman. But you're on a 2-game losing streak. JBD hasn't got in the mix for what? Is this 5 straight games now?
His last game was against Buffalo.
So more than that.
Yeah. When I said 2 weeks, I was like, oh, did I exaggerate that? And then I looked it up, and I mean, it's been 13 days since his last game.
And I don't think he is really in a position where he needs to be set off and not put in the lineup. But I guess what I'm trying to say is he doesn't deserve this healthy scratch streak that he's been on. I think Travis Green should get JBD in just to get him in the game and keep him in game-ready shape. And we're talking about Travis Hamonic, a veteran guy that ideally is a 6th and or 7th defenseman. So it's good to rotate JBD in. And I thought JBD and Clevin looked like a great pair as well. So I'm a little bit shocked that we're not seeing JBD at least get an option, especially coming off 2 straight losses.
That's where I'm at too. It's like, hey, if you're going to lose, at least like, let's change a little something here. And now that's 2 losses in a row. I know they got the point, but it felt like a loss against Philadelphia on Thursday night, blowing a 2-goal lead there in the final 10 minutes.
Well, it was a loss.
It was a loss. It was a loser loss, though. You get that little 1 point in your back
winner's
pocket.
loss.
Yeah, a winner's loss. Yeah, a New York Islanders loss, we'll call it. That team just stacks up those loser points. But I'd like to see JBD in the mix, whether it's tomorrow against Edmonton or Thursday against Vegas. It's 2 tough teams coming to town during the week, and then Vancouver on Saturday. Calgary wraps up the homestand on Monday. But I also think they just need a little bit more from the pair of Jake Sanderson and Artem Zub. Like the third pair on the back end shouldn't be making or breaking this thing either way.
No, and that's a great point, Ross. Like, I'm not saying like get JBD and stop this losing streak and let's get successful hockey back based on changing our 6th best defenseman for a 7th defenseman. Like, it's not going to move the needle too much, but I just think, especially as a young player like JBD, the longer you keep him on the shelf, not playing at all, I don't think that's good for JBD. And I think he deserves at least to get put in the lineup just to stay fresh. And I think I want to see more rotation of Hamonic and JBD. But then I guess the coaching staff is probably looking at this being like, well, Clevin and Hamonic are starting to look better. Why break up that chemistry and have Clevin now get used to going from a veteran guy in Hamonic to a younger guy in JBD who play quite a bit of a different style of game. Sure, they're both supposed to be physical shutdown defensemen, but I mean, when Hamonic's out there on the ice, and
he hit the post on Saturday night. But when you look at it, the expected goals percentage, the best pair for the Ottawa Senators this year is Tyler Clevin and Jacob Bernard Docker.
No, better than Shabbat Jensen?
60%, 60.8% of the expected goals when they're on the ice. Shabbat Jensen is at 56.5. Sanderson Zub is at 51.5. The worst pairs that have played over 80 minutes together, that's where we've set the parameters here. Sanderson Hamonic at 46, Clevin Hamonic at 46.
Wait, I thought you said Clevin and Hamonic were a good pair.
Clevin and JBD are the top pair.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, just threw it up if you're watching on YouTube here. Shout out Money Puck. They do great work over there. But you look at, this match is the eye test for me. I thought they've been great when you look at actual goals on the ice together. Stats for Sanderson and Zub, 1 goal for, 5 against. Sanderson Hamonic, 1 goal for, 7 against. That's a bit of a trend there too. I think Jake Sanderson probably be the first to tell you that he needs to play a little bit better. And this is the type of week where you need him because his best attribute is playing well against the rush, playing well in zone defending, but specifically off the rush. When you have McDavid and then Eichel coming into town, you need your top defenseman to be able to keep up and match speed and be able to play at least 50-50 shifts most of the time against those teams. So if we're looking at a player that I think needs to have a big week, forget the bottom pair defending. They need Jake Sanderson to get back to being the top end NHL defenseman that we believe he is. This is the week he needs to show that.
Yeah, I agree, Ross. And yeah, the group of players that are coming into town will be a challenge for sure. So yeah, it's crazy that this is the year we're seeing Sanderson decline. Like I thought this is the year he was going to take even a bigger step than he did last year. So it's unfortunate, but I still have the utmost faith in Jake Sanderson, and I think he's going to turn it around sooner rather than later.
Is there another player that you're watching for this week before we get into the teams that are coming and what this means in the standings? We'll look around the league, check in on hashtag Sens Abroad. Will Mark Stone be coming in the lineup in Ottawa? That's a question mark. But is there a player on Ottawa that you're hoping? I'm saying Jake Sanderson. I don't know if you want to call him our locked on player of the week, but I need him to be better. Is there a player that you think needs to elevate their game this week for the Sens to have success?
Not so much a player that I think needs to and have high expectations to, Ross, But there is a guy I have in mind that I think will be able to turn things around. But I think maybe we'll do a little tease, hit that after the break.
Well, now you've got my attention. That's coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for your shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks. You guys heard me. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Best part is, you don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Remind the people that with a 4-game homestand coming up, the best place to get your tickets to and from the CTC is the Sens Shuttle with the GCP, where the vibes are free if you're not a referee, and if you are, you have to show proof that you were not in Carolina on Saturday night.
Yes, yeah, we need all your, not your aliases. What's it called? Alibis. We need all your alibis checked if you're a referee to cross-reference that you were not a part of Hurricane. What are we calling it, Ross? Hurricane Zebra?
Hurricane Zebra on Saturday night. I mean, the Sens were going to lose that game either way. I was just hoping they'd lose it the right way.
Yeah, we want them to lose it because they were bad, not because the refs...
Like what? Like letting a goal in from behind the goal line?
Yeah, like stuff like that, or allowing momentum goals, things like that the Ottawa Senators typically do, but the refs had their hand to play in that one.
So who are you watching for this week?
Ross, I'm watching for David Perron. We saw that he's back with the team now. It's very good news that it seems like things with his child are going in the right direction. We hope all the best for the Perron family. But this is a veteran guy who is able to put up consistent points. He had 47 points last year, and then the 3 years before, 56, 57, 58. So he's good for 45 plus points, even a little bit more throughout a full season. And through 6 games, he hasn't been able to get things going. I think, obviously, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, it's very fair to give him a clean slate and say he had a lot going on in his personal life. And now you hope that things get better there as a veteran. Now he's up to speed a little, more practices, a couple games under his belt. So you hope that he can be a part of that third line clicking again now that Michael Amadio has kind of figured things out and Shane Pinto's back. So David Perron, Ross, is a guy I'm going to be looking at to kickstart some offense in the bottom 6.
I think that's perfectly said, and we may as well just circle the third line because Shane Pinto's now been back for a few games. The offense hasn't come with him. Not blaming him for that penalty that he got that really got the ball rolling against Ottawa after the disallowed goal penalty. Then Shane Pinto got the mystery slashing penalty.
Yeah.
His memes in the box, though, are all time. That's exactly how Sens fans were feeling. I posted that as a Sunday mood online, and I mean, it just felt like the perfect encapsulation of the feeling after that game Saturday. But I'm looking for Pinto to get back on the point sheet. The Senators are 3-0 this year when Shane Pinto has a point, but he's been held off the score sheet since coming back from injury. And now it's been enough games where you're like, okay, let's get it rolling. Now Perron's on his line. He's had that first game back. Let him get rolling. And this is, hey, back-to-back revenge games for David Perron. He played for the Oilers. He played for the Vegas Golden Knights. So let's see a big week from the third line. Let us know in the comments who you think needs a big week. Obviously, we'll have a full game day preview tomorrow against the Oilers, 7 o'clock start at the Canadian Tire Center. It's always one of the marquee matchups. Connor McDavid in town. Connor Brown, the Senators' all-time leader in most consecutive games with a goal. 8 straight games with a goal. I remember that during the COVID season. That guy, he just couldn't miss. Always one of the good guys in the game, and I like seeing people have their redemption arcs after missing so much time with injury, battling his way back. I think Connor Brown went 50 games or something without a goal last year.
Yeah.
So for him to battle back and be an everyday player again, I think that's a cool story. But the Edmonton Oilers likely without Darnell Nurse. He took a greasy hit from Ryan Reeves on Saturday night. Reeves got a 5-game suspension for that. But this Oilers team, if you can limit, I don't want to say shut down, if you can limit McDavid and Draisaitl, you've got as good of a chance to win. Like, I know they're the big, scary Oilers. They made it to Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final, but this is a team that's 9-7-2. Ottawa's 8-8-1. This isn't the Harlem Globetrotters coming to town. Ottawa should be going into this game with the expectation that they can win. Heck, the Sens beat the Oilers last spring in Ottawa 5-3, their last visit to Ottawa. I mean, Jacob Chychrun had the game-winning goal, and Parker Kelly had the empty netter. They're both gone. But I do think that the Senators should be winning this game at home.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not a trap game. The Oilers coming to town, that's a good team. They made it to the finals, like you mentioned. A couple injuries, though. And Ross, you forgot to mention another Sens abroad with Nurse coming out of the lineup, our good old pal Josh Brown. So the Senators had the 2 Browns. The Oilers have Josh Brown and Connor Brown. Josh Brown likely to get into the lineup, or at least he was practicing with the team. But yeah, this is a team, Ross, that we need the Ottawa Senators to get back to that tight defensive structure that they had in the 3 games leading up to the game up against the Carolina Hurricanes. And then the Hurricanes kind of reverse Uno. They flipped the script on the Sens, and they were the ones that were shutting down the Sens and not allowing them to have shots. You cannot play a run and gun game with the Oilers and expect to win, is what I'm saying, Ross. Like, they need to find a way to shut it down defensively, and the power play's got to get back to it. I mean, this power play started off red hot and has really cooled off recently. So I think the power play, if they don't get going, it's going to be tough to beat this Oilers team that can score in bunches.
Yeah, Ottawa went 2 for 6 against Philly on the power play. So at least at home, it's still clicking. Yeah. I think they're the best home power play in the league, but on the road, they just can't seem to get it done. 0 for 4 in Carolina, 0 for 3 in Toronto, although that didn't matter. Still 3-0 shutout win for the Sens. But if you look at it from the analytical perspective, which I think in bigger sample sizes is a good call, the Senators had gone 6 straight games where they dominated the analytical portion of things in terms of shots for versus against and expected goals, all that. Yeah, it didn't go their way on Saturday night. But as the great Linus Ullmark once said, this league is about not losing 2, 3, 4 games in a row. And although it feels like 2 losses, it's really 1-1 with that point. It's all about banking points at this point.
Sure.
What do you think the Senators need out of the 8 points available on this homestand? How many do they need to give you confidence going forward that this team can get their way back up into the mix in a top 3 Atlantic spot, let alone staying in the wild card race?
Well, Ross, I think the game up against the Oilers, that's a winnable game. Will the Sens win it? Not sure. The game up against Vegas, I hate to say it, but similar to Carolina, that's entering scheduled loss territory. We hope the Sens can do a little bit better than that, but I'm not expecting a win there. I'll put that a little more conservatively there. The Vancouver Canucks, that's a team that hasn't really found their stride yet. I think the Sens should be able to beat up on them. And then the Calgary Flames, that's a team that's performing a little bit above expectations. So I think at home, you should be able to get a win there. So I'm hoping for 5 points here, Ross. Probably the overtime or shootout loss to the Oilers, the loss up against Vegas, and then 2 wins up against the Canucks and Flames. I think that would be a nice little homestand here.
The temperature would certainly rise if the Senators can't win one of the next 2 games.
That would be difficult. Yeah, you're going on a 4-game winless streak. That would be tough. Yeah.
But the Ottawa Senators have not had any streaks more than 2 games this year. So they're due for a win, in a sense. This is how the Senators' season has gone so far. I tweeted out yesterday at Sens Central just the roller coaster that's been so far this season. Obviously, they got a win in their home opener, then lost in Montreal. So here it is. Win 1, lose 1. Win 1, lose 1. Win 2, lose 2. Win 1, lose 1. Win 1, lose 2. Win 2, lose 2. That's how the season's gone so far. So we've been talking about them being inconsistent, but truly they are the measure of consistent.
Yeah, seriously. All right, Ross. Well, I like this. This changes the whole outlook of this homestand. They're going to win the first 2 games. And then, Ross, you know what? I think they're going to start a new pattern here because the lose 2, win 2. Let's win 4 after a lose 2, just to even things out a little and start a new pattern there. Well, I guess maybe that's not smart, Ross, because then they're in line to lose 4 right after. So actually, I take that back.
We will get into the Edmonton game more tomorrow. We've got a great week of guests coming up later this week. We'll have Graham Nichols with us on Thursday. And then Friday, from Amazon Sports, Andy Petrillo. She will be joining us to tee up the game on Monday and what to expect from the broadcast. The Senators Flames game will be only available on Amazon Prime on November 25th. Andy is a good friend from back when I was working at TSN. I was her producer back in the day. I'm sure Pilsy will try to get some embarrassing stories out of Andy. And we'll leave it at that.
Oh, okay. You don't want to mention what show you worked together on?
It was at TSN 1050 radio, and the show started at noon.
Yeah.
Mark Stone may not play on Thursday, though. Mark Stone's missed 5 games in a row, and it's the classic Vegas injury situation. He's day-to-day and has been for 2.5 weeks.
Well, yeah, let me see what we're in November here, Ross. So I think he's got day-to-day scheduled for 6 more months.
So, yeah, well, I hope it's not Thursday because Mark Stone is among the league leaders all time in points per game against the Ottawa Senators. Mark Stone.
Not our Mark Stone.
Yeah. If we set the parameters at minimum 5 games played against the Ottawa Senators, number 1 is a guy named Mike Ridley. I'm sure he ate up on the early expansion. Ottawa Senators had 23 points in 11 games. That's 2.09 points per game. Other than that, it's Thomas Steen, again, beat up on the expansion Senators. He averaged 2 points per game in 6 games. And then it's Mark Stone, 11 points in 6 games against the Ottawa Senators, 1.83. Wow. And the next highest is Connor McDavid.
Oh, okay.
Connor McDavid coming to town again. So you're looking at some what do I call that? Villains of the Ottawa Senators, guys who just love killers, murderers. They get us good every time. So hopefully that can be a new trend if we're able to shut those guys down. Draisaitl's dominated the Sens. Eichel had that 4-goal game back in Buffalo. He dominates the Sens. He tied up the game late last season when Ottawa did win in a shootout. He's been a thorn in the Sens side. So this is about as difficult of a test. I keep calling it a huge homestand, but really it could be more seen as a measuring stick with Western Conference contenders coming to town. And if it seems like the Senators' schedule has been tough, it has been the 3rd toughest, I believe, last I checked, but these teams coming in are still going to eat them up historically. So let's hopefully get a new trend going, and we will see what happens at the Canadian Tire Center this week. If you're going to any of the games, leave your keys at home and make sure to hop on the Glebe Central Pub shuttle to and from the game. Just $17. You can get your tickets online and visit them at 779 Bank Street. We've got our weekly Monday Sens Prospect Roundup next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. What are you waiting for, guys? Join over 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the Locked On Senators podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right, Pilsy, before we get to our Sens prospect updates on Carter Yakimchuk, Gabriel Eliasson, we've got one on Moore. Why am I forgetting his first name right now? Javon Moore. Great news on Javon Moore and Blake Montgomery. Both of them made their commitments official over the weekend. We also have some notes on the Belleville Senators, where it's become an annual tradition. And we miss Igor Sokolov in this, but it was the Santa Claus parade in Belleville yesterday. And the leader of men, David Bell, doing his clown costume dress up. I want to put a thought bubble and say, I'm never happy. Remember that interview where he said, I'm never happy? He looked so serious there. But him and Donovan Sabrango took part in that awesome initiative by the Belleville Senators to be part of that. And I love how David Bell, usually coaches, they take themselves so seriously. It's nice to see him have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what it's about. AHL teams, they need to find ways to be involved in the community and really have that community aspect. And David Bell and Donovan Sabrango are doing their part there for sure. So congrats to those guys.
We got to get David Bell back on the show here coming up. They're actually coming to Winnipeg in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully I can take part in that broadcast. I'm actually in touch with Footy right now. If the timing works out, you will see me at the Canada Life Center. I was going to say Canadian Tire Center. And hopefully I'll be on that broadcast if the timing works out. Obviously, I'm kind of on call right now for personal things. And if it works out, I'll be there with Footy. So, hey, they had a big win on Saturday, a 12-round shootout, Pilsy. They get the win over the Toronto Marlies. It was in the ACC, Scotiabank Arena. So I almost said Maple Leafs there. Some say the quality isn't that different between the two teams, but we don't have to talk about how the Senators blew a 3-1 lead in the third period. We can just ask, why was Zach Ostapchuk the 12th shooter?
Well, Ross, when you're going into a shootout, I think the strategy is, all right, how can we set up our 12th man? All the other 11 guys, those are just fillers and just working the goalie so that by the time your 12th guy is there, he's ready to strike, and Zach Ostapchuk gets it done. I mean, it was a beautiful top corner shot by Ostapchuk too. An emphatic win for the Sens, because that would have been a tough one to let slip away, Ross, because the Belleville Senators have lost a lot of games in shootout and overtime this season. So it's nice that they get the dub there.
6-2-4 is the Belleville Sens record. The Marlies are 8-1-4. So you're looking at that and saying, hey, we got to keep pace with these guys in the North Division.
Ross, wait, while we're on the standings of that division, because I was looking at it this morning too, how about the Utica Comets being 0-10-3?
Yeah.
No wins in their first 13 games. They have 3 points on the season. I couldn't believe that. They might go for an all-time record low standings in the AHL. No wins in 13 games in Utica. Yikes.
That is a big time yikes. When it comes to Belleville Sens, though, a couple prospects that we're keeping our eye on, including Angus Crookshank, who has 6 goals in his last 5 games. Love seeing Crooker get in the mix. Got 8 goals on the season in 12 games. Ostapchuk has 7 points in 8 games. And Peelsy, the captain, Garrett Pilon, 1 goal, 12 assists in 12 games. So that's nice to see. Cole Reinhardt's still doing his thing, got 12 points in 9 games down there. Okay, prospects around the hockey world. Let's start with the 7th overall pick, the highest drafted prospect in the Sens system right now. And it was an intense weekend for Carter Yakimchuk. On Friday night, gets a goal, an assist, +3, 6 shots on goal. And then on Saturday, scores another goal and gets in a fight. And he absolutely needed this fight, eh? He was tracking this guy down after he threw a pretty big hit.
Yeah, he was obsessed with getting that fight happening, and he comes out on top too, so it worked out for him. Ross, those 2 goals, 5-on-5?
No, neither.
Shorthanded.
No, both on the power play.
Man, Yak loves eating up power play goals. I mean, that's what this kid does. So that's what you want to see, though. Yet you're never going to apologize for scoring power play goals as a defenseman, but it is hilarious that's his MO. He just scores on the power play.
I mean, it's a trend that has become glaringly obvious. 6 of Yakimchuk's 7 goals this season have come on the man advantage. Now, Friday's goal was on the power play, but it was also on a breakaway. He made a great move, forehand, backhand, tucked it in. So it's not always from that same trigger position, although he does love finding that open ice on the left side on his one-timer option. But I think that you're looking, and I want to watch more full games because the development on the defensive side of the puck is really what Yakimchuk needed to be able to work on. We knew the points would come. He's got 18 and 16 games this season, but as he's getting his way up to the World Juniors in Ottawa this holiday season, we're hoping that he can be a well-rounded, minute-munching, top-pair defenseman there. And then you look around, too, like guys who just went after him in the draft. Sam Dickinson's got like 25 points on the season in the OHL. So you're among some pretty high company in terms of the top end D. Zeev Buium just had a hat trick in North Dakota on the road this weekend with Denver. So it's going to be a grind with those guys who were drafted right around him. But Yak's doing his thing. And hey, just a quick note, Calgary has added an overage defenseman, traded a few draft picks. Like, do they think they're going for it this year? What the heck?
Yeah, that was an interesting move, Ross, especially because he's a righty, is he not?
Who?
No,
yeah, he is. Exactly.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting move. Quickly on Yakimchuk as well, I'm planning on going to the Calgary Hitmen game. I believe it's right before the Flames game.
So what's that, December 20th?
December 18th up against the Prince Albert Raiders. Then I'm going to go to the game in Calgary, Sens versus Flames. So that'll be nice to get a live viewing of Yakimchuk. That's my plan, at least, is to hit that.
And I heard you might be making some plans to go see Gabriel Eliasson, who had his first assist in the OHL, him with the Barrie Colts, who are first in their division.
Yes, yeah, the Barrie Colts are having a lot of success. Ross, we'll say this was done on purpose. Gabriel Eliasson missed a slap shot, but coincidentally, it just happened to bank off the boards and go right to his teammate that just tapped it in on the other side of the net. So we'll say that was on purpose, a purposeful miss bank shot pass by Eliasson. But yeah, I've got January 11th, Saturday, January 11th circled to go see the Barrie Colts up against the Kitchener Senators. I've been trying to find an OHL game in Barrie that has other Sens prospects. So obviously the Rangers with Ellis and Matthew Antonovsky were the perfect match there. So I'm going to go see them hopefully Saturday, January 11th, because I got to get a live viewing of Gabriel Eliasson. I mean, him in the OHL is like a men amongst boys, really, which is ironic because he's one of the younger players there.
Yeah, and he's tied for his team lead among defensemen as a +11 so far this season. So I liked what I'm seeing from Eliasson. We know the physicality's there. Last weekend, he had 2 fights, and now he's showing that he can get a little bit of offense in his game. He's got 2 goals and an assist in 18 games this season. You mentioned the Kitchener Sens, the Kitchener Rangers forward, Luke Ellis. He's had a bit of an spark in offense. He's been scoring, had a couple goals this weekend, and now he's starting to find some rhythm in his game.
Yep. Yeah. And the Kitchener Rangers are having a lot of success as well, Ross. I believe in the, was it OHL or CHL power rankings? I'm blanking on it now, but they
CHL.
were CHL. They're one of the top ranked teams just under the London Knights. And the London Knights and Kitchener Rangers are playing tomorrow night. So that'll be an OHL game to watch for sure. But yeah, him and Matthew Andonovski continue to have success for the Rangers.
LNS now is third on the team in goals. 11 goals, 3 assists. He's going for the Cy Young here. 14 points in 21 games. Meanwhile, Andonovski has 6 points in 21 games, 43 penalty minutes as well for him. Big bruising defenseman. Okay, now that we know the players who jump to the OHL can still go to college, Blake Montgomery has signed with the University of Wisconsin. He will head there next year. And Javon Moore, who will finish this season with Sioux Falls in the USHL, has also signed with the University of Minnesota. That's going to be a fun one to keep track of.
Yeah, definitely. So glad those guys have kind of figured out their path. And yeah, the prospect world opens up a lot more with these rule changes, allowing players to mix between leagues. So this is just the beginning. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, Ross, because obviously not quite the same, but the NIL world opening up in college sports changed the entire landscape of college sports. So we'll see if this move has a similar kind of impact in the hockey world.
Some other news and notes in the Sens prospect world. Cam O'Neill with the University of Massachusetts broke his hand on Thursday, so he's going to be out for a while. He only had 2 goals in 11 games so far this season. Theo Wahlberg had a pair of assists for Ohio State this weekend. He's got 4 points in 10 games, averaging about 18 minutes per game. And Tyson Dick scored his first NCAA goal since the 2022-23 season on Saturday, had a pair of points this weekend. 4 points in 12 games now with Wisconsin. Shout out to our guy Sens Prospects on Twitter. Does great work keeping an eye on all the Senators prospects.
Yeah, Sens Prospect is our guy. This segment is essentially brought to you by Sens Prospects. We got to get him back on. Maybe once it gets closer to World Juniors, we'll get Sens Prospects back on.
First guest ever on this show, and he goes, watch for Shane Pinto at the World Juniors. He's a great tipper, deflector in front, and the first goal of the tournament was the Shane Pinto tip in front of the net. That guy rules. Tyler Boucher, 10th overall pick. He's the only player in the American Hockey League as a forward to play in more than 10 games and have 0 points.
Yeah.
He's been healthy. Hey, he stayed healthy.
That's step number 1 for the Boucher redemption story. Unfortunately, you just would think, Ross, that he'd have something go off a shin pad or get a secondary assist or something. So I haven't been able to fully take in a Belleville Senators game all 60 minutes. So I haven't really seen what's going on with him. But again, our stance remains true. We're cheering for the kid. He's been on the show a bunch of times. He's a great kid, put in a tough spot. His health has been a major concern, obviously. His dad's been on the show a bunch of times. Great family as well. So we're rooting for him to figure it out. But I mean, it's 10 games in. There's a lot of the season left, and he's someone that hasn't got to play a lot of games consistently. So obviously, this is tough, but we're hoping he can turn things around here.
Let us know in the comments which Sens prospects outside of Carter Yakimchuk are you most excited or hopeful for going forward. We're coming up on January after the World Juniors is when we will do our next top 10 Sens prospects. Obviously, Tyler Clevin has graduated. We got some other graduates in there, so it'll be an interesting new list. Pilsy, final thoughts from me, and it's actually a update on Darnell Nurse. We said we're not sure if he'll be in the lineup tomorrow. He will not be, but it sounds like best case scenario. Friend of the show, Kenzie Lalonde, who's with us on Friday, she's chatting with Chris Knobloch as the Oilers are playing in Montreal. So Sens also, we didn't mention, get the Oilers on the second half of back-to-back. Darnell Nurse will be out 5 to 10 days with an injury. So all things considered, that's a very good prognosis for him. He was out cold on the ice Saturday.
Yeah, I thought we were looking at week-to-week type injury after that one. So that is great news for Darnell Nurse.
Any final thoughts from you on today's show, Pilsy?
Yes, final thoughts for me is we're hoping all the best for our guy, Sean Simpson, Simmer. He tweeted he's going to be stepping away from podcasting for a little bit to take care of himself. And this is one of those things where it's great that he's being public about it, because it shows that, hey, he's struggling and everybody struggles from time to time. And sometimes you really need to take a step back and take care of yourself. So we're hoping all the best for Simmer as he steps aside to try to take care of things in his personal life. And we've had Simmer on the show. He's a great guy. Obviously, all Sens fans know him very well. He's been a part of the Sens community for a long time. So all the best to Simmer.
All the best to Simmer. Brings beauty vibes all the time. And we hope that he finds happiness consistently moving forward. And I know that he'll have the support of us and all of the Senators community as he continues his journey. For today, we say goodbye. Thanks so much for joining us on another week of Locked On Senators. It's going to be a big one. We got a show tomorrow for a game day preview. Then we've got Sens Oilers, 7 o'clock at home. First of a 4-game homestand. Bring the noise, Ottawa. This team really rallies around that. If they could get a couple more saves, we're looking at a team with a much different record than 8-1. And I know it's easy to get caught up in the fact that they were 8-7 or something around that last year. Oh man, it's the same Sens. If you watch this team play, it's different than last year. They're obviously struggling against some very good teams as well, but don't give up hope, especially this early. I know there's the roller coaster, and on the postcast, we ride the emotional roller coaster, but if you take a step back and if you look ahead, like I've always kept pushing the last 20 games of the standings, they need to be in the mix then to make their push. That final turn, the old horse racing, the last turn, and away you go from there. But they got to keep at or above 500 moving forward. It's a big week of hashtag Sens Abroad because we didn't even mention Eric Brandstrom, who scored in back-to-back games now. 2 goals in 3 games. He's also got 5 points in his last 6 games. So,
I wasn't going to mention it, Ross, because you're going to kick me off the show. So since you mentioned it, Brandy's looking good. He's looking good.
He'll be in Ottawa on Saturday night with the Vancouver Canucks, and we will have game day previews for you for that on Friday. Also, Andy Petrillo and Graham Nichols this week. Let us know in the comments if there's any other guests, maybe someone who hasn't been on the show in a while, and we'll make sure to bring that to you here on LOSP. For today, we say goodbye. That's Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.